Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday, guys, and welcome to the $1,000,000 Monday call where I am the host, Anina Ellison Jones. I am also excited to be our special guest. So we're going to jump right on in. I have a presentation to follow along with as we talk about some real estate strategies for success. So today's call, in most of our calls are geared towards real estate brokers, real estate professionals, particularly the real estate agent. We're here in Chicago, Illinois. So these tips are universal. Most of you all should be able to follow along with this information if you are in real estate and it be valuable to you as well. So we're going to bring up the presentation. Perfection. Awesome. So I am your host, the CEO and founder of Recharge and Company. We have Recharge Inc., which is the real estate brokerage, a boutique brokerage located right here in Chicago. We're actually in the South Loop neighborhood. And then also founder and CEO of Recharge University, which was created to create a platform for agents. One of the things that I noticed when I started in real estate was that there was not a community for me as a younger agent in the industry. And I wanted to create a space that created value for the newer agent. And when I say newer, it doesn't necessarily mean young in terms of age, but perhaps newer to the industry, 3 years or less, 5 years or less. And perhaps you haven't really gotten your footing. That was my story. I'm hearing stories now where agents are joining during COVID and they're doing $1 million their first year. That's outstanding. But that was not my story. It took me many, many years to really find my footing and find my path. And that's why I created Recharge University, to create a space for us to collaborate and share information. I've been doing this now for 20 years. And so I have so much knowledge to share. And this is a platform that allows me to do that. And then accountability, right? In our coaching program, creating a space for you to set your goals and then holding you accountable to the goals that you want to meet. And then, like we said in the beginning, community, just having a safe space to fall, to talk, to share your challenges, your strengths, what's working well, where you need assistance. And this is how we learn. The reality is people need people. You need people to learn, and you're better off when you're in a space of learning from someone who's already doing what you're trying to do. And so that's the value that Recharge University brings to the table. Today, our topic of discussion is real estate strategies for success. I want to touch on 3 particular points as it pertains to building your strategies for success in real estate. So I want to dive right into this. And the first one that I really want to touch on is the skill of negotiation. You have to master negotiation skills. And oftentimes, what I'm seeing in real estate, agents are so emotional and so egotistical. And the biggest thing in real estate is ego kills deals. Ego kills the deal. So if you bring your ego to the table, you are very, very likely to kill the deal before it even gets started. There's no room for ego. And so we got to put ego to the side. We got to put our own opinions and personal thoughts to the side and build the perfect offer for our client, whether that be the seller side or the buyer side. So number one that I want to start with is knowing your competition. Who's on the other side of that table? Make sure you've done your research. Okay, so if you're submitting an offer, you're representing the buyer, you might not know a whole lot about the seller side, but it's important that if you've gone to the showing or to the open house with your client, or even upon submitting the offer or before submitting the offer, give the agent a call. I think we're in this instant gratification society where nobody wants to talk to anybody. We just want to hurry up and get the deal done. If you start and lead with treating this as a transaction, you've already lost. You've already lost the deal. You have to treat this as an opportunity. Both sides of the transaction have a mutual interest in this getting to the closing table. So no one should be trying to win here. This is all about opportunity and how can we present this opportunity in its best light to our client. So knowing who's on the other side of that transaction, that's often easier when you're on the listing side. You know, the buyer is ultimately probably a first-time home buyer. They're looking to purchase the property, but it could be an investor. So it's good to try to get some insights on who's on the other side of the transaction. On the buy side, knowing what type of seller you have. Is this a person who's lived in this house for the last 30, 40 years? They probably have a lot of emotional connection and emotional ties. So to come in and say you're going to tear out all the walls and rip up all the, tile could be a little bit offensive, even though it shouldn't be. But that could be a turnoff to a seller. And especially if you're asking them to do it, they're probably going to frown upon that type of request. Knowing if this seller is a developer, are they the builder? Are they an investor? Are they disconnected from the deal? Is this an estate sale? Do they just need to get it sold at a certain price point? Anything above that is gravy for them. So just kind of having an idea of who you're dealing with is really, really important. As best as you can, do your research and know who you're negotiating against. Number 2 in this same space is providing options. I love this one, and we see this every day. If you go to McDonald's, you go to Wendy's, you go to Burger King, any one of those fast food joints. As a matter of fact, if you go to almost any fast food joint, they give you options. You can buy it a la carte, or you can get the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, right? Giving you options, it speeds up your decision-making process. It makes it seem like you're getting more value than you probably are, right? So it's illusion. It has a bit of an illusion to it, but it also has an immediate solution-based factor to it. You're immediately providing a solution. As a matter of fact, I have a few options for you. Solution number 1, solution number 2, solution number 3. I'm currently negotiating inspections with a buyer client of mine. And we got the inspection report, 54-page inspection report. There's a ton of things wrong. The initial reaction, the buyer wants the seller to make all of these repairs, right? And so in my job, you become more of a consultant. So my job is to consult and guide them through this process. And so I don't want to say, well, no, they're not going to fix those things. In the beginning, we're going to ask for what you want. And of course, the response was, no, we're not going to fix all of those things. And so now what we're working through is big picture thinking. How do I ensure that my buyer sees this as a big picture as opposed to just trying to win in the negotiations of the inspection process? And so this part of the process, we've presented 2 options, 3 options to the seller to say, hey, okay, we get you won't do all of these things, but if you do this, can you do this, or that? Providing a credit, can you make these repairs and a credit, or can you make these repairs and no credit? And so we've dwindled that, 27 item list down to about 3 or 4 items with a couple different credit options. And I think that'll be a better solution. So just remember your job as the real estate professional. You are guiding this transaction. You are the glue, the liaison to keep this transaction together, but you're also the problem solver. Your job is to present options that solve the problems. And so helping your client to see that the seller is not trying to build you a new house, right? They're trying to get out of the deal. You're trying to get into it, right? And so how do we come to a happy medium with that? Both sides have to be willing to compromise unless it's an as-is sale, okay? Number 3, as the consultant, be careful about giving your personal opinion. You can really, really shoot yourself in the foot when you tell them what you think. And they're going to ask you what you think. And I always frame that based on my experience, based on my professional experience, based on what the numbers have shared with me, based on similar situations to this one. I really try to stay away from giving my personal opinion because my personal opinion doesn't matter. Only your opinion matters. And I always tell my client, I want for you what you want, right? So if this is a hard nosed negotiation and this is a deal breaker, and if they don't do this, then the deal dies, then that's the tone of the transaction. That's the tone that I'm going to take. But if you want this house and it sounds like you do, then let's look at this from a win-win perspective. What is it that the seller is asking for us, or what is it that they're saying to us? In this particular case, it was an estate sale, right? And so the seller was not the homeowner. They never lived there. Someone in their family passed away, and they're literally trying to sell the property and try and get as much as they can in the process. They're not in a position to make repairs. They are not financially positioned to do so. The margins are a bit tight, and they don't have the resources nor the time, quite frankly, the interest to make repairs, right? And so that's kind of what we had to convey to the buyer, and then the buyer understood that. And so what I suggested to the buyer is, let's create a maintenance schedule, because none of these things need to be fixed yesterday. And the perspective of the home inspector is they're telling you everything, right? They're giving you the baby, the bath water, the sink, everything, right? Everything that's wrong with the house, here it is, blah. That doesn't mean that it needs to be all fixed today. So what we can do is use this information as leverage, as well as use this information as a guide to create a maintenance schedule on how you're going to maintain this property, and put in order of priority what needs to be done and in what order. Perhaps requesting a reasonable enough credit for the items that do need immediate attention, like a hole in the roof, small hole, but a hole nevertheless, so that at least you can move into the home and there's no hazard to you as the homeowner. So that was also a solution that we presented. Now, here's another tip, and notice how my tone of voice just lowered. The next tip is lowering your tone when delivering sensitive information, as well as using the person's name. So those are two. That's a 2-for-1. Lowering your tone when delivering sensitive information, as well as using the person's name. When you hear your name, your ears perk up. Someone says, Sanina, I look, right? You get my attention. You say my name when you're talking to me, you're getting my attention. Half the time, our attention is divided, whether we're on the phone, whether we are looking through social media, checking our emails. Even if you're in the car driving with someone, you're looking out the window, you're thinking about something. Rarely does anyone have anyone's undivided attention. It's always divided. But the moment you call my name, you just caught my attention really quickly, even if it's for a split second. So there's an effectiveness to that strategy, because now you're talking to me. And you've taken the time to say my name, right? There's something about that just created an instant connection, and you got my attention. And it softens and lowers the anxiety and lowers the tension level, and the resistance even, right? Because now you've directed this to me. So whether that be your client or whether that be the other side of the transaction, I've gotten cold calls, and these guys are really good. Some of them are horrible, right? You're getting calls from these random folks, telemarketers for all types of stuff, car insurance, your warranty, and all types of stuff, life insurance, health insurance. I get so many calls from random people, but the better ones, they say my name right, because the bad ones, they sound like a robot and they don't pronounce my name right, and I hang up immediately. But the better ones, they say my name right, and they have a slow, calm, low pitch tone. And for some reason, even if I still hang up on them, they may get my attention for a few minutes longer than anyone else. And so there's an effectiveness to not only what you say, but how you say it, and also using someone's name. And then the other one would be number 6 is block objections before you receive them. And you do this by addressing them in advance. The first person to say the issue wins in this case. So I know, Mr. Seller, you're concerned about getting max dollar for the property. And we presented the offer, the counter offer to the buyer that puts you in a position to net X, right? So what I'm saying is what you're thinking. Everything else doesn't matter, but what I know matters is you're trying to net X. And so I just said it. I addressed it before we even get into it, before you have to say, but I'm trying to make X amount of dollars and they're asking me for credits. You actually still net X, even if we give them the credit of 2,000 or 5,000. If we position the offer in this way, you'll net Y actually, which is even more than what you intended. So I've already lowered their level of resistance by addressing their initial concern at the forefront, which means anything that comes behind that, there's really no reason to object to it because what you said you wanted, I've already positioned you to receive that. That's one of my favorite negotiation skills or strategies, especially when dealing with sellers, because they have a very clear bottom line. They're really easier to me to deal with than buyers because there's less emotion in most cases. They're pretty clear on what it is that they want. And if they can get that, everything else is fine, right? It's a win-win. If they can't get that, then it's going to be really difficult for the buyer to ask for 57 repair requests, right? You can probably forget about that. If they've compromised on price, they've compromised on their net number, then we're probably not in a position to give you all of the things that you're looking for from the buyer side. So from the buyer side, one of the strategies that I always employ is making sure that you're operating from the standpoint of a coach, a consultant, and you are the level head. Makes you have a good handle on the information, who you're negotiating with on the seller side, so that way you can help to paint the proper picture for your client. And the options for buyers are really, really good, right? So we can do this, we can do this, and we can do this. And you want to have at least three, right? When you have two, it kind of feels like an ultimatum, but having at least three options keeps them feeling like they're in control. Even when there's not very much to negotiate on, they still want to feel like they have options. And then from the seller side, making sure that you touched on the points that are very important to them, blocking objections before they arise by addressing those issues up front, making sure that you address it, you say it. That way they know that you're on top of your game. So those are my 6 negotiation skills for building the perfect offer. In Recharge University, I actually show the agents a template of what my offer looks like. So number 1, I always contact the agent before sending over an offer. Do not blindly just email offers to folks. You don't know if it's going to spam. You don't know if they're on vacation. You don't know if they didn't receive it yet. Always pick up the phone, call, even shooting a quick text to let them know, hey, I'm sending over an offer. Do you have a moment, to discuss the details? That goes so far, guys. It really does. And it starts to submit your name in that agent's head. So if there's multiple offer situations, you're still dealing with people. So as much as they're looking at the numbers to make sure the numbers make sense, people still have a bias. And you're helping for that bias to lean towards you by picking up the phone, having a pleasant conversation, tone of voice, using their name, all of those techniques, it still works when it comes to the submission of the offer. And then in the body of my email, I put all of the terms of the offer in the body, right? I don't just send them a blank offer, say, yeah, please see the attached offer to buy 123 Main Street. And now they got to comb through 13 pages of terms to ascertain, oh, how much are you offering? Are you asking for any credits? How quickly can you close? What type of financing? I put all of that right in the body of the email. And now that we're in the post-NAR settlement phase of life, I include the buyer broker commission addendum as a part of the offer. So that way we're not trying to guess whether or not the seller is paying a commission. We're asking them to. And that's been successful for me thus far. I've yet to come into a situation where the seller is not paying any commission. But if we were, I've already prepped the buyer in advance that this would be the commission you'd pay if the seller doesn't. And so I'm being a fiduciary for my buyer by asking the seller to pay the commission. And in most instances, they've agreed to pay the entire amount. And sometimes we might have been off by 0.5%, which means that, Mr. Buyer, you only have to come up with X. And even that term only is a strategy that's strategic, right? Because now instead of you having to pay the full amount that we initially discussed, now you only have to pay X. And the buyer is happy and I'm happy and everybody moves on. So that is one of my strategies. Strategy number one is mastering the art of negotiation. There's tons of books on it. One that I like, Never Split the Difference, is a book that I love on negotiation. But there's a ton of them. Find the one that works for you and become really, really good at that. Number two, in 2024, if you're not leveraging social media, I don't know what you're doing, because this is one of the best lead generation tools that exists that's free. So I do a number of things. I do mailers when I have listing. I do mailers around the property, just listed, just sold. I do handwritten notes. I select a particular area that I want to farm. I do email blasts, right? So all of those work. But what I love, and I'm not necessarily a social media guru, but I love leveraging social media for lead generation. And what I find is that you have to have the right mix, right, of edutainment, or should I say education and entertainment, which I'm calling edutainment, right? So no one wants to know how many houses you've closed. So what I'm noticing is that's ego, just closed, showing the signs and showing the heels, and like all of that's ego, and that's cute. And if that's your brand, then do what works for you. But what the consumer, if you put yourself in the consumer's shoes, what they want to see is you doing what it is that you do. So what I love is when I go onto like a home inspector's page and he has nothing but videos of home inspections. What else would I want to see? What else would I want to see on a home inspection page other than, oh, he's doing inspecting the furnace, or he's inspecting the sewer line. Oh, look how he inspected the plumbing. And like, he's showing an example of what he does, which is marketing his business, right? And so now I feel a level of instant reassurance. Oh, he does this because he has 1,500 videos showing that he does this. In between there somewhere is some additional opportunities to connect, right? You may show yourself at your son's football game. Oh, he's not just a professional. He's also a dad. Oh, I'm a dad. He's the coach of his son's football game. Oh, my son plays football, right? So you're creating instant connection with your audience, right? Maybe you own a cute little puppy and you show pictures of your dog, and I have a dog, right? So you create instant connection by using the edutainment strategy. So educate your audience on what it is that you do, not just showing the closings, but showing yourself walking through the property, doing a home inspection, showing the property, why it's important to get a home inspection, why it's important to do a buyer consultation. What does that look like, right? I think oftentimes, and me being a 20-year vet, I'm often overthinking this. This is one of my biggest areas of opportunity, if I be so honest, because I'm like, people already know that. But the reality is they don't. I do, because I've been doing it. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, nobody wants to see that. They already know that. But they don't know it, and they do want to see it. And so that's an opportunity of improvement. And so just having that right mix of education and entertainment, it creates instant credibility for yourself, right? Because now it shows people that you're actually doing what you say you do. And it shows them that you do this. It also shows them who you are, right? Personality. I can now get a clear picture of the person that I'm dealing with. And from there, I can ascertain if I want to work with them or not. So leverage social media for lead generation, not just to post cute pictures of yourself, not just to post your closings, but post yourself doing what you do, talking about it from an education standpoint, so giving tips about it, and then showing who you are, your personality. I like to travel. So travel has been big for me in the last 24 months or so. And so you'll see videos on there that's nothing to do with real estate, but that's personal, right? And so I'm connecting with someone on that level. That's worked honestly better than the real estate videos and better than the amazing programming that I do for the community. Those travel videos really connect. You get a lot of comments in the DM, and people want to talk about the trip and how was it, and did you go here and did you do that? And oh, I love that place. But what am I doing? Creating an instant connection so that when you are ready to do real estate, you're going to connect with the person that is most like you. And so that's kind of what the edutainment mix is all about. And then lastly, I cannot emphasize this enough, and this may seem so basic. It may seem so common sense, building strong relationships. But let me tell you something. Strong relation, and the reason I emphasize the word strong, because we all meet people, you build relationships, and some relationships start to wane and they fade off. But a strong relationship is one that's really hard to break. But it's because you've put in the time and the effort and the energy to build that relationship. You've paid in, you've poured into the relationship, right? So you've paid into that relationship dividends or deposits. You've made deposits into that relationship, and now the relationship pays you dividends. So what I mean by that is I always lead with giving. So if I'm looking to build a relationship, you are in a certain industry, I want to build a relationship with someone in that industry, or I want to learn from you. You're doing something that I want to learn how to do. I want to be better in that space. I'll lead with how can I serve you, right? Is there something that you need that I can help you with? Can I drive you to your meeting? Can we meet at a time that's most conducive for you? Maybe you don't eat lunch. Maybe you eat breakfast, or maybe you have coffee at a certain coffee shop at a certain time every day, or maybe you have to drop your kid off at school, or maybe, whatever the thing is, I try to insert myself into your world and find out what's important to you, right? And where is that genuine, authentic connection that can be built quickly that we can leverage to continue to build on this relationship. And so that way it's not just one-sided. But what I found is that once you've done this over time, and it's not always just to get something out of it, you're building relationships because humans need other humans. What happens though along the way is these relationships start to remember, Sanina was the one who, or Sanina can do X, or so and so can do such and such. And now the relationship starts to come full circle. So you pay into it, and then it starts to pay into you. That's the beauty and the power of building strong relationships. But you have to continue to pay into it to make deposits into it. Deposits aren't always monetary. You can make deposits with your time. You can make deposits by referring people to them. You can make deposits with your energy by showing up for someone, by attending an event and supporting. I find that we often miss that, right? We don't put enough stock in. Someone invited you to something and you couldn't make it. But how much more valuable would it be to reach out to them and say, hey, Sanina, I'm so sorry. I know you have an event on such and such date. I have a conflict that day. I won't be able to make it, but be sure to invite me to the next one. I get that all the time. And sometimes I'm just like, yeah. Right. But some people are really genuine, right? And I can tell this because of what they do and not what they say. So it's always in what you do. Showing up for someone, if that's important to them, goes such a long way, even if it means nothing to you. And even if you can't stay the entire time, I've had people do that where they come and they stay for as long as they can. But you came, you got dressed, you showed up. That goes a long way. So I think building those relationships to me is the most valuable thing that you can do in business. What I find is that in addition to building the relationships, they say it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. In business, that's probably the most true statement, right? Because you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have any people that believe in you, that trust you, that think that you're good at what you do, that give you an opportunity to do it, then you have no business. So people need to see, oh, you're good at what you do. Let me give you a shot at it, right? You need the opportunity. And sometimes, which is where nepotism comes into place, it's just having the right relationships. It's just being a part of the right family or being in the right mix, right? Being in the right place at the right time. And so that's a part of, you'd rather be lucky than good, right? You rather be lucky, you rather be in the right place, you rather know the right people than just be really good at what you do. Having that mix of both is what's going to strengthen your opportunity. So, I don't know if I have any questions. I'm kind of just pausing for a second to catch my breath and take a sip of water. No additional questions? Cool. I'll keep moving forward. So that kind of wraps up my 3 success strategies that I wanted to share with you guys today. Quickly, just to recap, I gave you 6 negotiation tips. Know who you're negotiating against, so do your research, provide options, never give your personal opinion, block objections before they arrive. So operate from the standpoint of going from high level of resistance to low level of resistance. Use the person's name to diffuse the situation and lowering your tone when delivering negative news. Leveraging social media, show them what you do and show them who you are to create connection. And then building strong relationships, although it may take time, making deposits into others pays dividends to you. So those are my tips. I've written a couple books. If you want to learn more about my thought process when it comes to sale, I have a book called How I Sell Homes Others Fail to Sell. That's a strategic book about selling difficult to sell homes. In Chicago, I've been a listing agent for the Troubled Buildings Initiative. We've sold and listed over 300 homes for this project, as well as managed these properties. And some of these homes were really, really difficult to sell. And when I say difficult to sell, I mean no ceilings, no walls, no floors, no doors. Okay. Distressed properties, dilapidated properties. But that didn't mean that they didn't have value. And it took certain types of clients with vision in order to see the value in those properties. So having been able to sell distressed and dilapidated properties, I can pretty much sell anything. So that book is all about strategy, how I sell homes others fail to sell. I'm also oftentimes the second choice. That's okay. I'll be the cleanup woman. So people will come to me and say, hey, I tried to list my home with this agent. They couldn't get it sold. Can you get this home sold for me? And so it's the way that I look at real estate. I can see things that others can't see clearly and help paint that vision for the next potential buyer and get that property sold. So that's book number 1. If you're interested, you can scan there. And then book number 2 is my homage to the newer agent. Before I jump, it's 15 things that I wish I knew before becoming a real estate agent. So it's really kind of giving you insights on things from as simple as structuring your day to building those strategic relationships, to creating a process to working with buyers. So it's literally some how-tos in there, some takeaways for the newer agent. So you can scan the QR code to get more information about that. These books are also available on my website, SaninaEllison.com. So if you're looking for me, you want more information, more content, at Sanina_Jones on IG as well as Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn. I don't post as much there, but my information is there as well. My website is SaninaEllison.com. And that completes our information for our $1 Million Monday call for today. So if you have any additional questions, you can contact me. And I look forward to seeing you on our next $1 Million Monday call. Make it a